that's also part of where they get funding to run some of the initiatives they carry out in their various communities. But let's see how that would also go now that Nigerians want them to take it a step further, not just your salaries. Perhaps leave your salary and cut allowances. All right, let's check other ones. Senate moves to establish LG's election commission. Kano politician Dan Bilki handcuffed, flogged for criticizing Kaduna governor. Find that also in the front page of the Daily Trust. Israeli parliament votes against Palestinian state. That's at the foreign scene. You also see more picture of the president and the labor leaders, exchanging pleasantries after the resolution of the minimum wage saga. But here is more JAM in the education sector. JAM pegs cutoff mark at 140 for varsities. There's also one conversation. Some say perhaps this figure a reflection of how things have really gone bad for our education system in Nigeria. When out of over 400, once you just get 140, then you're good to go. Polytechnics, understand, is 100.
That's sounding quite unfair to some of us who had 190 something then, and just like 3 marks, to hit 200, you're unable to study the course of your dream. Now you're having it as low as 140. One would think that the scores, the standard should keep increasing and not decrease. Or what's the rationale for universities to choose 140 as
a result of the aggregate of the score pulled by the candidate? But really, education is to definitely still comment going forward on this particular one. In trying to also help Nigerians understand what it is exactly, because in times past you have figures way higher than this.
Yes.
And of course, it appears it's just on a downward slope that things are going in terms of the cutoff. Perhaps some say, could there be a time when there really will not be any cutoff mark to enter university? But let's see how that will go.
Will it be?
For today.
Alright, from the Daily Trust, let's check the Vanguard for this morning. Vanguard is also Labour settle for 70,000 and or PS lists condition. It writes to the story. We are accepting it with mixed feelings, says Ajairo. Minimum wage law should be reviewed every 3 years. I guess that's the palliative there. It should be reviewed every 3 years. And Tinubu to submit executive bill to National Assembly next week. We can't pay without FCT's support. OPS says NLC hooks neck meeting today. And we have the sworn reps to expedite action on bill, Speaker Abbas says. Alright, details of that you find on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And we have this one also, why fuel price may double as subsidy cost rises. You find details of that on page 19 of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. Actually, the price of fuel has been fluctuating recently, not particularly on a stable scale. Well, you want to know what's up, you find it on page 19 of the Vanguard newspaper. Undume Akpabio has reduced Senate to federal government parastatal. Lokman, ex-APC chief dollar sales to BDCs, halt naira depreciation. And on page 4, hardship. NLC CSOs unimpressed as reps cut salaries by 50% for 6 months. What more do they want? Check page 4 of the Vanguard newspaper. And still on the Vanguard newspaper, after protests, FG makes U-turn on 18 years benchmark for admission in others. Find details of the Vanguard newspaper this morning. And still on the Vanguard newspaper, lastly we have this one on page 8. Olubado stood, "I'm not opposed," says Makinde. That will be
Get news out, of course, bring you headlines right there. The Daily Times newspaper is here. Labour accepts FG offer of 70,000 naira as new minimum wage. That's like a sing song this morning. Says promise of a 3-year wage review by FG particularly appealed to workers. Why I had to intervene in the negotiations. That's according to President Tinubu. Atiku accuses Tinubu's government of exhibiting despotic traits. That's in the front page of the Daily Times. Says National Assembly is enabler of executive recklessness. You see that in the front page of the Daily Times. Illegal mining, military, police not involved. CDS IGP tell reps. You also find this. FG will complete inherited projects in spite of fund challenges. That's according to MAI. It's on page 6. That's the Minister of Works. Bayelsa governorship. Appeal court affirms Governor Dewey Deputy Governor Ewuru Jacko as duly elected. That's on page 10 of the Daily Times for today. That's it, right here in the front page of the Daily Times.
The Daily Times, let's check the Daily Independent. On the Daily Independent is this one, mixed reaction. Minimum wage. Workers say they can't survive on 70,000 as minimum wage. Accused labor leaders of compromise say this is a sellout. Analysts say increasing salary will provide forces. Ask federal governments to consider development of public infrastructures and others. Tinubu pledges reviewing minimum wage every 3 years. Assures Sanu Nasu of payment of withheld salaries. Those are the associations of universities. It's promising withheld salaries. So you have details. So the Daily OK's forex sales to BDCs for invincible transaction. Details of 7 of the Daily Independent as well. Killed in shootout, the greeted arrival of Swaibu Okpebolo at Benin Airport. Details of that is on page 7 of the Daily Independent. Drama as police Nasu Sano officials clash at Abuja protest. And on page 29 still, Senate moves to establish local government electoral commission. You find details of that on page 29 of the Daily Independent for this morning. 6. Udume's sack. Our democracy at risk. Lament Atiku and Lukman. Still on Daily Independent, we know promoters of planned nationwide strike protest, says FG. Details of that you find on the front page of the Daily Independent as well. 31 million housing units in Nigeria, substandard, says Housing Minister. But one would want to ask, what were the supervisory ministries, what were they looking at when these 31 million housing units were constructed? All right, you have the universities to admit candidates with minimum this morning. And that will be it.
All right, from the Daily Independent, the Guardian newspaper is next. The Guardian is the front page of the Guardian, quite loaded with information this morning. First is on the minimum wage, where Labour agrees to 7,000 naira as lawmakers slash pay for 6 months. And you also find a breakdown of some sorts of the value of what the minimum wage is going to be. FG has been. FG organized Labour OK triennial wage review. NECA, man others meet, asked FG to support businesses for easy compliance. You also have graphical representation, says Nigeria's minimum wage value, the equivalent to the dollar. As of 2019, it was $88. As of 2020, it was $79. Fast forward now to 2024. The equivalent of the minimum wage is now $45. And check the cost of 50 kg bag of rice. As of 2020, it was 26,000 naira. So 2021, it was 25,000 naira. Fast forward to 2024, it is 85,000 naira. That's according to the breakdown in the front page of the Guardian for this morning. But away from the minimum wage, you find more, I say interesting now, but of course also disheartening in a way. End of an era. Reading culture suffers as legacy libraries rot, vanish in states. End of an era. Reading culture suffers. Well, you've been to the library in 7 years?
We have Google that.
That story is a big story for the Guardian on page 4 and 5. Picture of the deserted library facility right there in the front page of the Guardian.
But the thing is, I actually have not been to the library recently, but I make sure I buy some books.
Okay,
Like
you have your own library.
Yes, you have your own library. And, you know, those days when it's the number of quotes you're able to, you know, that makes you
Okay, now I know where it's always coming from.
But everything, in the interest of the younger folks, really have shifted from reading to, you know, the social media, to do the TikTok, all sorts of engagements on social media. Maybe those ones, if regulated in a way, you know, could redirect their attention to reading.
Okay, let's check more in the Guardian. Afe Babalola urges FG to close down more others. Reps in rowdy session over alleged link of opposition to planned protest. Dangote refinery test operations not scuttled, says N. As Atiku, CUPP, others fault attack on democracy. Introduces for. You have more here. Sean Jagba syndrome. Prepare for leadership. Olaupa tells youths. You check also in the Guardian newspaper. That's it from the Guardian.
Okay, from the Guardian newspaper, let's check the Nigerian Tribune. On the minimum wage, OPS cautions as federal government and Labour agree on 70,000 minimum wage. Right as to the story, we have minimum wage to be reviewed every 3 years. Why I intervened in negotiations as Mr. President, we have accepted new amount with mixed feelings, says Ajairo. Our President orders payment of withheld SANU and NASU members' salaries. You'll find details of that on pages 4 and 27 of the Nigerian Tribune. CBN resumes dollar sales to BDCs at 1,450 naira per dollar. Find details of that on page 6. It says each BDC gets some amount there, okay, $20,000. Nigeria's economy on path of growth, says Omokri. Find details of that on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune. And over 100 psychiatric doctors left Nigeria in 1 year. That's according to the Association of Psychiatric Doctors. Find details of that on page 25 of the Nigerian Tribune. Reps reduce salary by 50% for 6 months over headship in the land. Same story. You find details of that on page 3 of the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Bill for Local Government Independent Electoral Commission lands in Senate. Find details of that on page 24. Writers to the story, what the new bill says: Northern senators shoot down South-South Development Commission bill. Find details of that on page 12 of the Nigerian Tribune. And this one, gunshots, violence, welcome Shaibu to Benin after restatement by court. 1 policeman killed. APC PDP chieftain trade blames. That's unfortunate there. On page 7 of the Nigerian Tribune. Right, that'll be all from the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, let's wind down on the reviews this morning by checking the sports arena. The Punch Sports Extra is right here, and to the Punch. Enefiok Udo Obong. My career as an athlete is something I wouldn't trade for anything else. There are things I wish I had done differently, some races I wish I ran differently. My Olympics to Saudi Arabia story. You find that in the Punch Sport Extra. You also find Eagles drop to 39th in latest FIFA ranking. Waldrum, Ajibade, Lord Falcons. Napoli, PSG in talks after a senior agreement. You have United complete £52 million deal. And of course, more stories right there in the Punch Sport Extra. Check Sporting Sun. Okay, Sporting Sun is here also. The Sporting Sun doctor debunks Iheanacho's injury. The drills at Foxes begin pre-season training. We find one here, Rashford banned. Check that in the Punch Sport Extra. Well, of course, it appears one man is taking off from where it's step up the club. That's the part of the story. So that part of the story you find in the front page of the Sporting Sun. Ahead of September Bold, Joshua Steen furious as Dobell snubs drug test. That's it from the Sporting Sun this morning. And of course, that's where we end the papers review for today. We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll switch our attention to what is needed to be done for the youth. Please stay with us.